Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to Mindset Mondays with DTK. This is episode number 87, an ongoing series of weekly live broadcasts. This series is designed for folk with a growth mindset or those who'd like to develop one. The opportunity is to play with new ideas, play with new concepts, and try on new mindsets. So, if you will, take just a moment and click share just beneath this video. You have a chance to invite your community and your friends and colleagues to this conversation. The more folks we have in the conversation, the richer it is. And all right, so the quote we get to play with today. Now, I'm in soon to be sunny Albuquerque, New Mexico, in a beautiful little Zen garden. Behind the house where my eldest, and their fiance are living. So it's a perfect place for a nice low key conversation, right? And nobody else is awake yet anyway, at least not here. So the quote we get to play with today is this one. It's from Gilbert Keith Chesterton. And G.K. Chesterton is somebody I came across during the research to pull together some mindset quotes. Never heard of this man before, and I've sort of become kind of fascinated with him and his view on life and, in particular, travel. And this is one I thought really captured the way he thinks. And it aligns with both his way of being in the world and his way of traveling in the world. A dead thing can go with the stream, but only a living thing can go against it. And been some fascinating conversations with folks this week that initiated by this quote. A lot of reaction to it. I met a woman who was a server at Fox Brothers Barbecue probably 15 years ago in Atlanta. And I noticed just on her wrist a small tattoo of a salmon. Of course, I'll start a conversation with anybody. And I was making up all kinds of things of what it could mean. So I assumed that she was sort of from the Pacific Northwest. And she said, no, actually, that's something that had come up for her, that the salmon, as she put it, swim upstream for the good stuff. and, and their entire life and their success as an animal, as a species, is dependent upon their ability to swim against all odds upstream, up current for miles and miles and miles to be able to spawn. And it was a reminder to her how important it was to do that which is hard to get the rewards that come from it. And that image, that conversation came up for me when I read this quote. It doesn't take any effort to go with the flow. And the cost of that effortlessness is that you end up going only where the water takes you, right? It takes intention and effort and energy to carve out your own destination or your path to your desired destination. And in the conversation with Len, when he had seen this quote and started commenting in the thread, was the idea that a living thing is a choice. A living thing can float with the stream as well. And I love what that brought up, the idea that, yeah, we can float with the stream, but then that's a choice. We can also swim with it to accelerate, or we can choose to go against it. The most important part about all this that comes up for me is this is our opportunity to be intentional, to live with intention, and a way of being in the world that shows we're actively participating in it and not just floating along, coasting along, and see where it can go. And so I'm curious, it's, where in your world are you floating like a dead thing? Where in your world are you coasting through life, going with the flow? And I use that word on purpose. There's all this deep work that's been done around the concept of flow and being, in particular, in flow is one thing. And I don't think it's in the concept of working hard to get yourself into a flow state, or working, I should say, to get oneself into a flow state. that's not in opposition to what Chesterton is saying here, because that's showing intention. And then to parallel it to this, to be in that flow state, to go with where energy and flow is taking you, you are again being in intention. You are at choice as opposed to floating along like a dead thing. And so this week is really an opportunity to look at where you are just going with the energy of what's happening and letting it take you as opposed to being intentional and being at choice and choosing when you are taken by the energetic flow or whether you are setting your course with intention. We're here in Albuquerque visiting my eldest, and we also went to the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. The annual balloon fiesta is unbelievable. There are just shy of 1 million people over the course of 9 days will visit the balloon fiesta. And oh, dear God, there were several 100,000 of our closest friends swarming this balloon fiesta field. And I think the number they gave us was like 550 hot air balloons. And it's incredibly interesting. The air pattern here is very unique. And yesterday was a perfect box day. And it's a great tie-in to going with or going against the stream. The box is above this field along the Rio Grande in Albuquerque. They have a very unique airflow pattern that when you get up a couple hundred feet, the air current is moving north to south. And so as the balloons lift off, they float down to the south. And as they rise up a little higher, and this fire off more hot air into the balloon with the propane tanks that they have, and you rise up several hundred more feet, the airflow goes south to north. And then so you watch all the balloons go south for a good way, rise, float north, descend, float south, and they've got a perfect box pattern that they can flow in. And so although they are, as a dead thing might, going with the stream, going with the airstream, they then have the opportunity to be intentional and choose what streams to follow and choose how they're using them and how they're not. And then navigating that to touch back down, most of them very close to where they started on this field. And it's remarkable to watch very living things choosing to go with the flow. Yeah, and Misha said, trying not to fight, trying to find peace and balancing. And I think that's, one of the fascinating things, especially watching this balloon festival, the idea of having one doesn't really have control over a hot air balloon, right? On one hand, you can control which airstream you're in, but there's not a lot of steering. You don't get into a balloon and say, I'm going to go from point A to point B, unless the airflow or flows and flow patterns will enable you to do that. You really have to find peace with enjoying the journey that is available. But the point is, you have control over which stream that you're in. And it's fantastic to watch the ease and grace. There are times where it looks as if they're standing still, and in fact, they're moving at quite a clip. And so it comes up for me in this is that's our opportunity. It's to navigate the flow around us. And yes, one can be in that effortlessness of going with the airflow, going with the stream. But be an intention and move between the streams, move between the types of flow and the ways of flowing so that you can create something that's meaningful for you. So for this week, the question that comes up for me is, where will you create flow, the marriage of flow and intention? How will you navigate the currents in your world to create something meaningful and fulfilling through intention? So come to mindsetmondays.tv. That's the easiest way to get to either see the past episodes or to join the Facebook group and join the conversation there. It's a private Facebook group, no pitch, no craziness, just the opportunity to carry on these conversations about mindset. And so between now and next Monday, what mindset will you choose?